Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CoinGeek RoundTable. I'm your host, Becky Liggero, and this subject this time is going to be video, streaming, and the blockchain. We have some amazing content coming that's going to appeal to users, to content creators, even to investors, but really anybody who's interested in the move from a Web 2 to a Web 3 world and how this is going to impact you and your business. So we are going to have three fabulous guests that I'll introduce in a moment. But I also wanted to remind you that if you have questions, please just leave them in the chat box because we will take some time to answer those for you as we move throughout the show. But before I introduce you to my guests, we're going to take a quick moment for an ad, but don't go anywhere because we will be right back. Hello, everybody. So we are back. We have my fabulous three guests. We have Vanessa from Rad NFTV, Ben from Haura, and Mark from Victors. But before I have them all introduce themselves to you, I just want to remind you to please subscribe, click the notification bell so you do not miss a future episode of the CoinGeek Roundtable. Thank you so much, and let us get going with our show. So I'm going to have each of you guys introduce yourselves and introduce us to the company that you are representing. And I will start with you, Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Becky. My name is Vanessa Kincaid. I'm the Chief Brand Officer at Rad NFTV, and we're a video streaming platform that uses next-gen technologies to create new experiences and ways to distribute video content. And a big part of that is blockchain technology, NFTs as is in our name. And so I work across multiple departments within the company, both business and engineering, to help support like the bigger vision, implement and execute strategy, and keep like a consistent message for our new and existing audiences.
Great. And it's so nice to meet you, Vanessa. I've met several others from Rad NFTV, but we're really happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And Ben, who is a trooper here. It's 1 a.m. where Ben is based in New Zealand. So thank you for making time for us, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Becky. So I'm Ben. I'm the co-founder of Haura. We're a live streaming platform built on BSV. And well, what we do is we are building something that's going to completely change how streamers and viewers monetize. And we're a small team, but I feel we're a very, very talented team. And our goal is to completely disrupt live streaming as we know it today, and build a much better experience for both streamers and viewers.
Amazing. And Mark, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi there. Thanks, Beck. My name is Mark Bamford. I'm the founder and CEO of Victors. With what we're doing at Victors, we're looking to really revolutionize the video streaming space and move away from sort of the broken streaming models, the traditional ones of advertising and subscription. And we've basically transformed video into an interactive, immersive experience where people can discover all the things they're seeing inside of the video. Now, these opportunities kick up huge amounts of data and engagement, as well as commerce and so on and so forth. So for us, we're very much a Web 2 style business that was built around creating utility and usefulness as our first kind of core tenant. And for us, the blockchain world is relatively new for me. I'm one of those guys that's a little bit dangerous with a little bit of knowledge. But I can already see there's great application of blockchain generally, across both everything we're doing, both front office and back office, so to say. So that's us.
Very cool. I just want a little shout out here to the Block Dojo because they are responsible for reuniting Mark and I after many, many years. And we saw each other at this showcase, the Block Dojo showcase last month. And I learned all about this really cool project, which is why you're here. I think they have a showcase tomorrow, in fact, as well for those based in London. But anyway, so really happy to have you guys, like I said, and also just for the audience, a reminder again that we will take questions. So please put them in the chat box and I'll take a break and maybe 20 minutes or so to answer some of them, or maybe I will answer them immediately if it's relevant to what we're talking about. So please go ahead and do that. We'd love to have you interact with us. But to just set the stage here, I mentioned in the introduction that we're going to help educate everyone here about a move from a Web 2 to a Web 3 world and what role each of these companies play in this movement. So I just wanted for you guys to all describe what that even means to you, moving from Web 2 to Web 3, because a lot of people throw those terms around and they have no idea what it actually means, or people have different ideas of what it means. Mark, I know you already mentioned Web 2 and Web 3, so I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit about my background as well and where people come from. I come from a telecoms background where we transitioned from analog to digital and so on and so forth. And the user experience of someone on a phone didn't really change that much, but the cost of the call cost a lot less. The speed of it, the ability to add other features into it became much richer. So I don't really see that the arrival of blockchain is doing anything more revolutionary than a natural transition to different technologies that allow us to do better and different things more efficiently, especially sort of behind the curtain, so to say. So for us at Victors, we create huge amounts of metadata, for example, about what people are engaging with inside of videos, brands, products, people, places, all these things. Now, this metadata, for example, Google can't even create that because they're not really looking inside the video, they're doing adverts around the video. So for me, the application of blockchain to sort of protect that data, validate that data, and in the future commercialize that data through sort of dynamic NFTs and other things that probably haven't been thought of yet, throws up great sort of commercial scalability for us from what is a concept into something which can be quite big. So that's kind of an example of where I see it fits in our ecosystem.
Yeah, cool. We'll for sure talk about data and blockchain in a little bit later in this conversation. But Vanessa, could you tell us the transition from Web 2 to Web 3? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think Mark's explanation of it was great. For us as a consumer-facing platform, we also think a lot about the user experience and just how we can create better products for both the creators and the users. And the way that blockchain and the infrastructure piece of blockchain has really played into that is about ownership, which is a concept that's talked a lot about in the blockchain space. So how can we integrate BSV and some of these blockchain technologies to allow both creators and consumers to have true ownership over their audience, true ownership over their content, have that be platform agnostic is kind of the utopian version in the future. And so we do that in a couple of ways, through an NFT subscription that we have, through entitlements for content on the blockchain. But really the future that we see is similar to what Mark said, one where we can take these technologies and just make the user experience incrementally better or significantly better for users, by giving them a better experience. And when we moved from physical to digital, the problem was everything became owned and controlled by the 5 or a handful of large digital companies that kind of monopolize the industry. And what we can do with blockchain technology is pull that back a little bit and give the end user their content and control back. So
Yeah, very good. Power back to the user. Love that. Ben, give us your thoughts. What do you think?
Well, for me, it's about the Internet of Value. And now I like to give this example, like paying for parking here. How you move from paying coins and then now you're paying with your debit card, right? You just tap on it and you can pay for your parking. But the problem is that, whenever I pay for half an hour of parking, which costs $1, I need to pay 50 cents in fees. So thinking about, paying 50% off my parking and fees, that's just nuts, right? So moving into Web3, it completely changes everything. For live streaming in particular, it opens up so much monetization opportunity that the problem isn't that how can we monetize, it's how can we just choose a few things to focus on to help our users and streamers monetize, right? Because it's just so much out there. And yeah, I mean, I think we're still really early in the game with Web3, but I think it's just going to get better from here on.
Very cool. Yeah, and you touched on it a bit, Ben. We're going to talk about micropayments a little bit later in the show as well. I love that whole subject and how that applies to video and streaming. But first of all, I wanted to talk about NFTs. It's such a hot word. Some people are scared by it. Some people are turned off by it. Some people love it. So I wanted to dive into that subject first. And Vanessa, since NFT is in the name of your company, can you describe to us how Rad NFTV actually utilizes NFTs, especially when it comes to subscription and distribution?
Yeah, of course. So one of the things that we've rolled out and are experimenting with right now is what we call a Stream Pass, which is the first ever subscription NFT for a video streaming platform. So you can come mint a Stream Pass and basically unlock all of the premium features and premium content on Rad NFTV. And one of the challenges with what we saw kind of in the 2021, 2022 era of NFTs was a lot of them were hype driven. They didn't have a lot of utility. So people were buying them for the art or for various reasons, but there wasn't a lot you can do with it. And we see this as a really great utility in the space right now, to be able to come and kind of unlock all of these amazing features on our platform, all of the content, as well as another way that we're using NFTs is that creators can come and basically connect NFTs to content that they have on the platform and use it as a way to build their audience, and like segment a part of their audience that are real super fans of the content they're creating and engage with them in new ways.
Yeah, the key word there I love is utility, right? It's we want them to be doing something. There's so much we can do with NFTs. Mark, I know that you are newer to this space, like you said earlier. So maybe learning how NFTs can help superpower the Victor's platform is something that you're still exploring yourself. But in what ways do you see that you'll potentially be able to use NFTs with what you're doing?
So, yeah, for us, it kind of as a newbie into the space in many ways. I mean, everybody's a newbie, I would say, just for starters, I think. And I find that especially in the music space. I mean, Victor's, we have our foundation in the music world of music videos. And as we all know, NFTs have been quite the rage in some positive ways and some negative ways from the musical community. But these are guys that are looking for new ways to making money, and they're jumping on these things, and they're risk takers as well. So while there may be some good projects and bad projects, at least people are trying. And I think that's an important thing to put a hand up to as well. But for Victor's in the NFT space, I mean, one of the things that we're measuring already today, like for example in our projects, is for every single view that we get of a video, of a music video, we're generating about 14 interactions, unique interactions with people interacting with things in the video. Now for us, that can lead to a kind of engage to earn kind of loyalty program, the more you engage in videos, whether you're donating to the charity or buying something or sharing or buying a ticket, whatever these things are, you can reward those things in many ways with discounts and on products and so on and so forth, but also NFTs. But I think for me, what's possibly more exciting, I think, for Victors is when we look at our secret source, which I already mentioned, that the data that we generate is somewhat unique because no one's really generating engagement inside a video. I was at the conference as we met a month or so ago, and just the concept of, creating NFTs out of search terms. Like, for example, if you can get your head around this, if you want to know what the top lipstick in rap music videos is, we can tell you that because we have that raw data, but I can package that up into some kind of dynamic NFT, or someone's going to have to correct me on my language here, but I can create a search term called top lipstick in rap music videos, and someone can buy that. And that gives them access to the data on an hourly, daily basis that is streaming across our global platform to access that data. And that's gold dust for brands in many ways. And it's something Google can't do. And for me, this is kind of using blockchain and NFT style technology to basically create the new kind of Google AdWord for the future. I don't want to type stuff. I want to find stuff in video, and I want to get data and utility and usefulness by finding this information out as a marketeer. So if that's a dynamic NFT or whatever that ends up being in the future, those things for me get really exciting, but also rewarding people for actually engaging on our platform is another. So those are the two kind of key areas that I can pick on today. There's dozens more, to be honest. And the stuff that Vanessa and the Rad TV guys are doing to push the boundaries of experience as well. I thankfully will partner with her to do that. I'm not going to try and crack that nut as well. We're all quite good at our little niches, I think, as well. We don't need to do everything. I think is a good learning as well in these new spaces like blockchain. Just finding good people to work with is half the challenge. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to, sorry, Becky. I was just going to say, Mark, it's really fascinating to hear how you're thinking about taking little pieces of like your platform or the internet, information on the internet, and packaging it up as NFTs, because I do think that we have only touched the surface of what that technology can do in terms of creating value for the end user. And while like art and imagery is one piece of that, there's a lot more that I think we'll innovate on over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, and video really is the way forward. I know, especially with younger people, they don't read anything anymore.
I don't know why I have a keyboard anymore. I can do everything voice, and actually have my voice thing turned off. That's a whole nother dark alleyway.
So true. I know you can now listen to our articles on CoinGeek, by the way. You don't even have to read them anymore if you don't want. Anyway, so Ben, I know that you have a really cool way of using NFTs within the Haura platform. I had to, I think, watch one of your interviews several times to fully grasp it myself, of minting a moment and understanding how that works. So can you explain to us how you're using NFTs?
Yeah, sure. So our business model is to tokenize live stream moments, which can later on be traded. And so these moments are basically NFTs that the viewers can keep either just as a nice collectible or something that could be worth a lot in the future, right? And so we've decided to mint these moments in the form of ordinals. And because ordinals is something really interesting to me. I've been involved in NFTs, that are minted through smart contracts. But ordinals is interesting because you can inscribe directly onto a SAT, onto the chain, without the use of a smart contract. And with so many protocols out there being built by really great builders in the BSV space, there's a lot of functionalities that we can add on top of it. So it's definitely something that we feel is the way forward for us. And yeah, I would love to, I could go on talking about this, but I don't want to any of the viewers watching. But it's really interesting, ordinals.
Yeah. So when you mint the moments of a stream, what exactly do you mean?
So yeah, without going into too much detail, because it involves micropayments as well. So the thing with live streaming today, as it stands, is that it's a very one-sided interaction. So for a viewer donating to a streamer, for example, all they get in return is some recognition in the chat. So what we found out was that these users would usually stop donating around the third or the fourth time. And because of that, streamers have to keep attracting new followers in order to keep up their revenue stream, right? So what we're doing with this is that we are rewarding users for giving micropayments to streamers in return for the support. So, for example, we're able to users are able to send micropayments of fractions of a cent per second to the streamer. So, for example, if I were to support you for a minute, I would get that that block of time of the streamer saved into my video library. And that minute block of video, I can then mint as an ordinal and I can trade it later on. So if the streamer does something funny or does something historical, yeah, and it's yours to keep and trade.
Yeah, I love that. If they say something historical and then you have that, it's yours and you own it. It's very cool, and it leads right in, Ben, to the next topic I wanted to bring up with you guys, which is revolutionizing monetization. Absolutely doing this with a blockchain technology when it comes to video and streaming. There's a lot of ways to do this, and I know everyone wants to find out new ways to make some money. So Ben just covered a way that you can do that as a streamer. And I would love to hear more about data and monetization and all of this. New ways to incentivize your users is what you were talking about that I wanted you to elaborate on. That's exactly what I wanted you to say. You mentioned this in the bit we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so very much so we have this sort of, we have our interface where we really kind of allow people to discover things inside the video, and every time they interact with a thing, we measure that thing. As I say, this really creates a lot of engagement. So I think, as I mentioned before, at the moment, we're measuring around 14 clicks on products and brands and people and places for every single view. So there are other platforms out there that kind of reward repeat activity in a very Web 2 world. We're a Web 2 business, and we take all this metadata and we can create an engage to earn model from that, which actually is a hyper engagement model. And I think it's actually in a different forum a few months ago in Malaysia. Someone said to me, you can make more money out of 100,000 people than YouTube can make from 100 million. And I think that really is telling that actually, when you start moving away from the need to try and monetize through advertising, if I look at that as a Web 2 kind of staple, you don't need millions of views anymore, because you only need millions of views to sell billions of adverts, which the content creator is not making money from. So when we start looking at how we can create utility, in a Web 2 world, engage to earn is one way. The three ways I do it today with the business as it stands today is on the data, which I can sell subscriptions to brands to access, to find out what the top Nike shoe in South America is trending inside a video. That would be one. Second is actually clicks. We generate 23% click-through rate, right, which is a Web 2 staple, right? And the third, of course, is e-commerce. The nice thing about those three things are that when you start looking at it again, well, what can I actually supersize? How do I supersize these three revenue streams using blockchain? We end up looking at things like the engage to earn model. We start looking at, taking that data and creating some kind of dynamic NFT out of it and selling that. We look at, all sorts of things that become quite novel, and it just unlocks value for us to move from a Web 2 world to Web 3 world. I'm not quite sure which world I'm going to be in at the end of the day, but it's going to be somewhere in between, with a bit of a hybrid for sure. So that for me is really, when it comes down to it, the key thing.
Yeah, I think that didn't you even tell me that there are ways that potentially users watching videos could identify some of the items in the video and help populate?
Well, So this was a very particular BSV kind of eye-opener for me, because one of the questions I get we're doing a fundraise at the moment. I have Web 2 investors and Web 3 investors. But one of the common questions is, how do you identify all the things in the video? And it's important that when you identify what dress you're wearing, Becky, or what earring that is, or where the plant's from behind you, whatever the things may be that I'm curious about, or the microphone that I now know is $100, as you told me earlier, or where my mug's from, which is actually from, somewhere in Mexico. It's important that that's an exact match to the exact thing you're wearing as a product and brand. It makes the data worth something. So we've got a whole way that we do that in the Web 2 kind of world, which is relatively smart, I would say. But what becomes really clever is when we start looking at some of the things Ben was mentioning around micro rewards. I can actually just put a video up to an engaged community in a few months' time, for example, if we do explore this. And I can say, hey, 1,000 people that want to collect value through identifying what red dress that is or where my mug's from, they can actually tag the things in the video themselves, get rewarded with a micro payment of a penny, and actually then over 1,000 people, if 86% think that you're wearing a Chanel red dress, then there's a good chance that's right. Now, that's not a perfect match, but I've outsourced our entire tagging, problem to the crowd, and I'm rewarding them for it. But what's really nice about that is maybe there was 5 dresses that people thought your red dress was, Becky. Sorry to use your red dress as an example, but I then go to at the end and say, hey, Rebecca, we've made some money out of this video. It's yours. Here, have it. But can you actually confirm, was it the Chanel dress or was it from these other 4 brands? And if you say, actually, yes, it is a Chanel dress, everybody that guessed right gets another penny. So this kind of gamification and micropayments and solving kind of a tagging issue for us in the future is really exciting because it creates hyper engagement, it creates interest, creates revenue straight away, and stickiness for our audience as well. And those are the kind of the key words that we all want in our business is stickiness. I mean, as to Ben's point before, why have 3 experiences with someone when you can have 100 by making the experience slightly smarter? So for us, that side of the BSV thing for me, and it's a bit early days, but hopefully I haven't completely butchered the philosophy behind it. But that for me is a really exciting thing. But it's just solving a Web 2 problem in a Web 3 way, which is what kind of the whole theme of today is a little bit about.
Yeah, I love that. And I know we were saying that this is something that AI can't do. It's not going to be able to identify all the items in the video. You need humans to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
As a general rule, I would say, if I say to an investor, an AI will do it in the future, they seem to then tick the box and move on. But actually, to be honest, guessing what that plant is behind you is actually probably could do that. But where your red dress is from, it won't get it right. And as soon as it doesn't get it right, you need someone to check it. As soon as a human intervenes, you might as well have just done it with a human in the first place and just asked you. So, sometimes technology isn't all the sort of rage from that perspective. So yeah.
The other thing is once you have those, 5 different answers about where the dress is from, even if it's Chanel, it's more information that you can give back to the users of maybe you can't afford the Chanel version of the dress, but here's a handful of other very similar options, which is another Web 2.
I mean, there's another way of looking at that as well, and I'm just making this up on the fly now. I can actually then go to Chanel and say, did you know that Becky is a really good influencer for Chanel? Even though she's wearing maybe a Dolce & Gabbana dress, everybody thought it was Chanel. So actually, you should go and do a deal with Becky. It's not, I've just made that up, but that would be quite an interesting use case.
Making magic right here.
To connect the dots really of the person on the video, in this case Rebecca, with a brand that suddenly they can connect, and actually that's a mutual partnership because we know that there's value there to be exploited.
Very, very cool. Very cool, guys. And Vanessa, one of the things that I find so interesting about what you do at Rad NFTV is you connect with Hollywood, and I know you have definite number of connections in Hollywood talking about how you can help monetize that world where there's a lot of third party, there's a lot of contracts, there's a lot of issues with paying people and making sure the right people get paid. How do you see blockchain tech helping revolutionize monetization within Hollywood?
Yeah, I get really excited talking about this topic. I mean, we're a marketplace, so we're thinking about how to do this both for the content producer, creator, studio side, as well as on the user side. But on the creator side is where it's really interesting, because what blockchain technology enables is to be able to do micro payments, microtransactions in almost immediate terms, or like as soon as someone purchases. And so one of the challenges with the Web2 space is, once someone purchases a piece of content or a digital asset on the internet, with like a video, for example, there's a number of people that are involved in making a video, or music. Like, there's the producer, the actors, the screenwriters, the sound guy. Like, there's just a whole crew of people involved in getting that piece of content, from inspiration and conception through execution. And what happens today is that when a user buys that end video, there's a whole middleman system that takes place in order to get those people paid out. And it's very clunky and not transparent. And, it's for the creators working on this, it's not the most ideal situation. And so what blockchain can do is basically allow you to write a lot of that information and those people directly into the smart contracts that are kind of controlling these purchases. And so what we can do on the platform right now is, when you come like put a video on the RAD platform, you can specify multiple royalty splits, as we call them. And so every time somebody comes and buys that video, everybody that's been, that has a royalty split on that video gets paid out immediately, almost in like a micropayment or transaction. And that just kind of cuts out that whole middleman process of needing like additional agencies and like things clogging it up and taking extra platform fees. And so that's one thing that like creators really love about what we can offer them, especially smaller creators that just can't operate on the same scale as some of the larger studios. But we also see, in talking to some of the bigger Hollywood studios, they definitely see the benefit of being able to streamline that experience as well.
Love that. Very, very exciting. And so we're about halfway through the roundtable here. And I only see one question, really, which means our audience must be so enthralled with what you guys are saying. They're just jotting down notes, maybe. But the question I'll take here is, in a world where we have peer-to-peer transactions, peer-to-peer digital transactions, what kind of people do you think are going to take the benefit from this, are going to enjoy using this more than others, perhaps? Like, what class of people, what age, what part of the world? Do you guys have any thoughts on this? We've talked a lot about micropayments, which we'll dive into a bit more after this question. But any thoughts on the demographic here? Does anyone want to take that? Mark, I see your lovely hand there.
I mean, for us, it's not addressing Robin's question directly. We really focus on the content creator. The business of Victors was really about rewarding music artists initially, but really any content creators. But I'll speak to the music artist community who benefits from this, to Robin's question. Our North Star is to create, more value, more revenue, to reward artists more fairly from every single view they get of the video, right? So that's our North Star in our business. So in our world, if it's a content creator or a music artist can earn 15, 25 cents per view, suddenly as an independent artist, from 100,000 views getting £25,000, from 1 million views, £250,000. These are big numbers. And it just allows the artistic community to get much more fairly rewarded without signing the rights away and getting to that complex world that Vanessa's talking about with regards to who owns your artistry. I think for us, it's really about fueling the artistic community and allowing them to be much more fairly rewarded. So it's not quite an economic class of people, but it's certainly an underpaid one and an undervalued one. And I think for us, that kind of, we try to be an ethically good business. That's kind of our North Star. So that's why I hope benefits from ours is that literally any music artist can do what they do and write what they write and sing what they sing and be who they are and actually earn a fair living from that without having to sign their lives away to a major, for example, as we have in the music world. So that's who I see on my side.
Very good. Vanessa, Ben, anything to add, or it's okay if you don't? No?
Well,
Yes?
there's one thing I could say. I mean, to facilitate that peer-to-peer transaction and to have it actually have mass adoption, which means you need a network that can scale to that size. So I would say, I mean, initially the ideal demographic for this would be existing PSV users because I think we know that it's a network that can scale, and which is why Aura is being built on it as well, because microtransactions from our viewers to the streamers are essentially also like peer-to-peer. And if we expect it to hit thousands or even millions of transactions per second, we need to be sure that the blockchain will be able to handle that. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay, so we have a few more questions that have come through in our little break here. So I will take the question from Happy Guy. Love the name. Do you think there will ever be a streaming platform that both the video producer and the consumer get rewarded from adverts, etc.? I will say, no, Mark.
I can add to this actually. This is actually what Aura is. One of our focuses. So it's a really good question. Our marketplace basically is laid out like a social network, right? It's not a typical NFT marketplace. So you scroll through it like you would scroll through Instagram or TikTok. And because we know that if someone has taken the time to mint something, which means the content must be good. So you'll be scrolling through all these videos that someone has thought someone else would enjoy. And that itself, it allows streamers and the person who owns those NFTs a monetization opportunity that was only afforded to platforms like YouTube, right? Because you can't earn ads on live streaming videos currently. So in our marketplace, if a video were to get a lot of views and a lot of comments, they would actually earn part of that ad revenue that's being also shown in the marketplace. So definitely video producers and creators will be able to earn from ad revenue.
Cool, Mark. I think I saw you shaking your head. So disagree. Make it juicy.
I think what Ben's shining the light on is there are new ways of doing things, right? It doesn't have to be over an advert. He could actually apply his technology to an advert, actually, from that perspective, and you could make money out of the advert in itself if you enjoyed it, right? But to Happy Guy's question, slightly given away by the little YouTube logo as well, I think, on his icon. But my view is no, because as soon as you get into the ad world, it's very much about what the price of an ad is. And ads have been traditionally getting worth less and less and less over the last 20 years. And so it's kind of a race to the bottom a little bit. And I'm biased, and I'll own that. And at the end of the day, this means as ads get cheaper, you need more and more and more views. So the more views you need, then you're spending money as an individual to chase the algorithm up on YouTube to get more views. Well, you're actually going to be net down, because even if you did make $1,000 from 1 million views, you spent $5,000 getting there. So I don't see that traditional model surviving in the mid to long term. I think novel ways around what both Ben and Vanessa and ourselves are exploring, there's an answer in there somewhere. I don't think I have a silver bullet for it, but certainly for us, we try and do everything the opposite of YouTube. It's almost like our mandate. The last page of my slide deck is, this is how we do everything the opposite of YouTube. And they are the big ad player in the room, to be honest, as well. But I do love a good ad. So it has to be a good one, and they're quite rare. But yeah, that's my take on that question.
Very good. Vanessa, did you want to add something?
The only thought that I had to add to both the really great answers that Mark and Ben had was just kind of comes from like a conceptual level in the way that I think about it as like an entrepreneur and an end user, is like how we're defining ads, and I think to Mark's point, I like to think about how we can innovate in that space and like redefine what an ad looks like. And I do agree with Mark that my hope is it's a big industry to overtake. But my hope is that through some of the like cool innovative technologies that everyone on this are doing, we'll kind of evolve the way that advertising works from the traditional model that it is right now of like, an agency creates this piece of content and then, to Mark's point, kind of like shoves it in your face over a video. And I think we've started to do that in different ways, even in the Web 2 world. But I won't go into a ton of like things that we talk about or ideas, but I think that there's a lot of interesting ways that people are trying to do that today.
Yeah, all I can say is that the ads on YouTube drive me absolutely bananas. I literally sit on my screen waiting till I can press skip ad. Like, I don't even listen to a word they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point, right? Like, how do we, like, if you put yourself as a user, like, how do we create like a better world and a better like experience, whether it's in the digital space or in the physical space for our lives as humans?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a couple more questions before we get back to our topics. I see one here from Casey Hamilton. Hi, Casey. She would like to know, do you have any sign-on bonuses for big podcasters? So, anyone? Does Rad do this? Yep, Mark, I'm going to leave you out of this one. I guess this would be a Rad one. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, potentially. I don't have a specific yes or no answer to that. We don't have, but reach out to us. We love working with creators. We're very creative in figuring out the way that we can work with people and like bring them onto the platform and start to help promote their content. So, yeah.
Very cool. And Casey, I can help you connect with Vanessa if you would like after the show. Okay. Yes. Okay. And a question from Rory Zimmerman. Hi, Rory. She has signed up to the Haura waitlist, which is very cool. And Ben, she'd like to know if she'll be able to stream via various Web2 social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
Yeah, so definitely this is one of the features that we'll add. But for as we'll be heading to our alpha soon, which will be keeping very core features to get feedback from streamers and viewers, so we can iterate on it and then improve it. But definitely one of the things that we'll add in the future.
Very good. Thank you so much, guys. All right, so a couple more topics to hit here. We've really talked quite a bit about micropayments already. Thank you guys for explaining how you'll be using those in your platform, hopefully. So I wanted to talk about just payments in general and wallet integration and how your users are going to be able to get money on and off the platforms and to do all that kind of good stuff. I know the word wallet can sometimes freak people out if they're thinking of a crypto wallet, this kind of thing. They can get complicated. But Vanessa, can you explain to me how the users on Rad are able to transact? What kind of wallet integration do you have? What kind of payments do you enable?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, we have the subscription, which you can currently purchase the Stream Pass subscription, which is an NFT. We're also very, very close on pushing out a really exciting new feature that's going to be built on BSV that allows users to buy content and have the entitlement live on the BSV blockchain, and they can purchase that in micropayments with BSV. And so basically it will, mint a new like entitlement every time someone purchases it. Very similar to the way like payments, like buying something on iTunes, buying a video on, like iTunes or your Apple TV would work, but we'll be integrating that backend like BSV infrastructure. So we're super excited about that. That should be coming out in the next month or so. And that will be kind of the first step in allowing users to buy and own their content completely on the blockchain.
Super cool. Love that, Vanessa. And Ben, how do you enable your users to be able to transact on Haura?
Well, for us, it's really important to consider that all of live streaming today is Web2. So if we want to bring some of those users over, we have to make it as easy and uncomplicated as possible without even needing to know how it works, right? So because of that, we're using Handcash wallet. And they've got this really cool onboarding system where someone can just sign up using an email address, and they automatically create a wallet for them when they verify their email. I think that's really cool. And they don't ever have to know what the seed phrase is because they have this thing called the threshold signature scheme. You can look it up if you want, but it makes it really easy for people to sign up onto the platform. And also they have great off and on ramping. Recently, I think it's they've allowed people to add BSV to the wallet and also to convert it back into fiat in the bank account, I think. But I'll definitely work closer with them heading into our launch just to see what else they can do to make the experience better for our users.
Yeah, and believe me, guys, Handcash is very easy to use. It's super easy to use. I've done it. You can sign up in like 2 seconds. Very easy. So try it out if you haven't already. Mark, what I would love for you to talk about when it comes to payments is how you can potentially pay like affiliates and things like this, as opposed to, well, the users are you don't really need to pay the users, I guess. But how are you going to get that system working within Victor's, do you think?
Yeah, so obviously within what we're doing at Victor's, if people are buying, if I'm going to move away from the red dress and go to my Specsaver glasses here. If someone likes his glasses and they want to buy them and they cost $100, and the artist is then due maybe 10% for that. But it might take, at the moment, with my affiliate relationship with Specsavers, 30 days to kind of reconcile that. And then I have to collect the money and distribute it, another 30 days. It'd be 60, 90 days that I then send the $10 to the artist. Now, to what Vanessa was talking about before, that artist may need to split that amongst 10 people that they owe money to as well, that have some rights on the artist side. So you have quite a lot of complexity and delays in this kind of, I would say, bricks and mortar. It's not, it's digital, it's Amazon, it's how it works. So what we're doing is, within the music video space, creating a brand marketplace of about 120 independent British brands that are working with our independent music artists who prescribe to much more of a sort of blockchain driven future, where if this is from an independent brand in the future and someone buys it, then actually there's no reason I should wait 60 to 90 to 100 days as an artist or as a rights holder to a piece of music, when actually these cost $100, I get my $10 and I send it straight away to all the people in that daisy chain. And that's something that's being quite well experimented with today. I think for us, fundamentally, creating a walled garden of brands that are buying into that from the get-go is quite important, because it gives us a walled garden we can set the rules within and the technology choices within and how those contracts are settled. So for me, this was actually one of the original kind of things that caught my attention on blockchain many years ago. And I love the idea that a music artist is sitting down with his producer and his videographer and his makeup artist in a bar in LA, 3 weeks after they've shot the video and it's been live, and all their phones go ping at the same time, and they've all got 50 cents or whatever that thing is. And I think the more that we can do that kind of stuff, it creates a lot of attraction to the artists, but also it's actually about fairness and getting money to the people that are owed it, without me putting all these very bricks and mortar, old-fashioned, things like banking accounts and things in the middle, which we just don't need when we want to reward the artist as our North Star as quickly as possible, and as richly as possible. All those things take percentage points off the yield. So that's really, from an e-commerce perspective and affiliate perspective, where we see our future lying. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, and I come from the online gambling space, and I've been saying to a lot of my peers that being able to pay affiliates of the online gambling sites instantly and not having to wait for a month it's just a really complicated process right now. So I think simplification of this would be really very cool. Very cool. There is a question here that I'm going to take just because it ties into what we're talking about here. It's from Archie. He is talking about the whole idea of having to use usernames and passwords. Really, it's just getting outdated, especially as we move to Web3 world. He wants to know, could we potentially integrate something like Babbage's Auth0 protocol to automatically log into your platforms? Like a digital ID type thing. So Ben, I'm going to have you elaborate on this one, if you don't mind.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't heard of that, but I'll definitely look it up after this. But definitely, I mean, to have one key to be able to log into multiple platforms would be really useful. There's a really funny story. Just recently, I helped launch a project which is on an EVM chain, and the person was really excited to come on. Had never been on Web3 before, but they wanted to get involved. And so they opened the wallet, loaded up with stable coins, and then immediately forgot their seed phrase. They didn't even write it down. And so he just went, forget it. And he gave up right then. So having one of that to help people log in multiple platforms is really useful.
Very good. Yeah, that would definitely be super useful. And actually, this ties into what I wanted to talk to you next, which is how we talk to our potential users, our investors, our partners when it comes to these platforms. And we want to keep things simple, right? We don't want things to be overly complicated. So I wanted to know how you guys will be talking to your potential partners. And I know, Vanessa, if you're talking with Hollywood, for example, or you're talking with people from that world, the whole idea of blockchain and throwing those terms around might potentially scare people away. So I was just wondering what your thoughts and advice is on this subject.
Yes, I totally agree that it's a complicated thing, and I think everybody in this space and in this roundtable right now, and probably in the audience, is pretty well versed in a lot of what we're talking about, so we can use more complex or terminology like blockchain terminology. But the thing we talk about a lot, especially when we're going in and talking to a Hollywood studio or an end user that might be a crypto like newbie or not in the space at all, is really focusing on solving the problems, like the actual problems for the people or for the studio, rather than the way to get there, right? Like blockchain is just another, like we're talking about Web 2 and Web 3, which honestly, for a lot of people, they don't even know what those terms mean. Like they're trying to come to a platform and solve like a problem that they have, whether it's wanting to watch content or wanting to figure out how to, create something and get it out to a larger group of people. And they're not thinking about the like Web 2 versus Web 3 versus infrastructure. And so we try to focus a lot on what it is that we're solving for people versus how we're solving it, and start there. And then I think you can peel back the layers of the onion and explain the way that we're getting to that end goal or that end problem. Because, if you with all technology, like, it's amazing, and we get so excited about the little details and innovations in it. But if it's not actually creating a better space, creating a better world, fixing some of these problems that people are having, then like, what are we doing this for? And Hollywood is at the studios in Hollywood, and people in that world are focused on kind of creating these like awesome movies and entertainment and experience for us, and aren't very well versed in this technology. And so it is the same. Like, they're just trying to solve like the problems that they have right in front of them, and we have like a lot of really great ideas on how to solve that. But I think sometimes when you get too deep into the space, it's easy to use like terms that make sense to us but not to other people.
It's like another language.
I'm maybe rambling on that a little bit, but yeah.
No, it's spot on, as Christopher says from Messy Times. I can see his comment there below. But Mark, I know that you have an interesting dilemma here. You're talking with users on one hand and then with investors on another hand. And how what are some of the issues you face when figuring out exactly what points to hit with these two different groups when it comes to your platform, your use of blockchain, and this sort of thing?
I think the messaging needs to go up and up and up until it makes sense to everybody if you want to have an umbrella kind of position. I think knowing your audience, because obviously a Web2 investor or a traditional investor and people investing in blockchain type, they're looking for different things and have different appetites for different things. But for me, I fundamentally put, I think what we've all talked about here a lot is utility and usefulness at the top. And that's a common language that exists in all of our technologies, right? So with me, quite fortunate, I guess, my fundamental truth is when people watch stuff, me as an individual will watch content I like, whatever it is, cooking, music videos, car shows, even, hedge fund update, newscasts, and I'll be curious about something. I want to know about what's that, where's that, who's that. And if I can, Victor, solve that point of curiosity in the moment and actually tell that person what the glasses are, or what trade that is, or what golf club that is, or how do I get that recipe, or how do I find out more about what Ben was talking about when he was talking about it, or actually what actually is Babbage's thing. I can click on that and find out more about it while it's happening. Curiosity is a stock in trade across all human beings. So for us, we're looking to try and connect curiosity with an action of discovery in many ways. But once we've done that, game on. There's all sorts of ways that we can start exploring using blockchain to help create value out of that for the content creator, to reward them much more fairly, and actually for the audience to have a cooler, deeper, richer experience that they know is supporting the person that they love, which is the person that made the video, whether it's David Attenborough or no good. So for us, curiosity is our staple. And if I speak to everybody about that, about solving curiosity, this makes sense in both worlds. Yeah.
Love it. The common language we all understand. Beautiful. And Ben, to wrap things up here, I know that you mentioned earlier that you want to keep things as simple as possible for Haura users. And I actually saw a comment that someone was asking where they can get more information on Haura. And I believe you have an alpha launch coming up. So if you can just talk to us about how easy it is to use Haura and where people can find out more, that would be great.
Sure. Our alpha launch is actually coming up in about 3 weeks. So if anyone's interested, head over to our website, aura.com, and sign up for the wait list, or you can just email me, ben@aura.com. And if you have any questions you need answered, just email me.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, it is literally just 1 hour. It literally just flicked to 1 hour. So you guys have done such an amazing job. I want to thank the three of you so much for sharing your insights. It's been really amazing. And I think everyone can walk away with a nice understanding of how we are going to use blockchain with video and streaming and make things much more user-friendly and useful for people. So thank you so much. And thank you very much to our viewers. Please don't forget to subscribe to the CoinGeek YouTube channel, where you will be able to watch this roundtable over and over if you want to pick up all those juicy points and lots of other great content, and turn on that notifications bell so you know when we post new things. But thank you all so much, and we'll catch you at the next CoinGeek Roundtable.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, MetaNet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.